Está em Portugal o autor do livro A Reconexão, Cura os Outros, Cure-se a Si Próprio. Chama-se Eric Pearl e é conhecido em todo o mundo pelas inexplicáveis curas que tem feito. Têm sido divulgadas curas de cancro, até de sida, paralisias cerebrais e muitas outras doenças às quais a ciência e a medicina convencional não conseguiram dar resposta. Durante 12 anos, Eric Pearl foi quiroprático, até ao dia em que diz que lhe caiu um dom nas mãos. A partir desse momento, tornou-se um fenómeno que se alastrou pelo mundo. Vamos ter a oportunidade de conhecê-lo já a seguir. Eric Pearl é autor daquilo a que muitos chamam milagres medicinais, que a ciência não explica. Tornou-se presença habitual em centenas de programas de televisão por todo o mundo e alvo de estudo e investigação por parte da comunidade científica. A sua experiência pessoal e ensinamentos foram passados para papel no livro A Reconexão, um best-seller traduzido em mais de 39 línguas. Eric Pearl viaja pelo mundo para dar cursos e seminários com o objetivo de formar cada vez mais pessoas em cura reconectiva. Ou seja, dotar essas mesmas pessoas de capacidades curativas como ele. Para provar que isso é possível, passa muitas vezes da teoria à prática nas suas intervenções. O corpo dos pacientes tem respostas involuntárias à manipulação à distância do curador.
When you experience something like this, it seems like a normal process, but if you were to just tell me about it, how does that happen, you know? And I still don't understand it, but it's more familiar, I suppose.
And is it scary now?
No.
A cura de doenças para as quais a medicina convencional não tinha resposta foi a rampa de lançamento de Eric Pearl para o mundo. Com casos como o de Dmitri, de 5 anos, nasceu com uma paralisia cerebral que o impedia de andar pelos próprios pés.
When Dmitri was born, the doctors told us he might never be able to walk, never be independent, that he would have, since this was a chronic disease, certain damage to his health that he might never recover from.
Alguém falou a esta mãe de Eric Pearl. Ela viu como uma luz ao fundo do túnel. Uma luz que trouxe uma cura que não esperavam.
It was strange for us to think that this man was trying to heal him using his hands, and yet without actually touching him.
He got up after 4 minutes and was not just walking, he was jumping and he was running.
It was a huge surprise and a great joy for us. But at the same time, we were left wondering, how does this all work? So fast, so directly, and so effectively. He was walking properly, not standing on his tiptoes, and there was no need for anyone to help him climb the stairs, which was what usually happened.
O fenómeno alastrou-se pelo mundo e tem cada vez mais seguidores em Portugal. Hello, Eric. What is reconnective healing, reconnection?
Reconnective healing is what many people consider to be a new form of healing that may well be here on the planet for the first time. According to the scientists, it takes us beyond energy and energy healing, Reiki, Qigong, etc., and brings us into a spectrum of energy, light, and information. But what I feel it really tends to do is that it reconnects us with our original fullness of the essence, the spirit, the truth that we all are, what many people report they experience in between lifetimes when we return to that light we all come from, that we all return to. And it allows us to experience that fullness here in our physical form.
Is it a power?
If we don't misuse the word, yes, meaning it's our own internal power. It's us accessing our own true innate power, our own gift. And when we experience this, what we really access is a more multidimensional awareness. And this multidimensional awareness, since we go where our attention goes, means we exist more multidimensionally. So just one tiny, tiny, tiny gift of this are the physical healings that take place. The reason that there's so much research around reconnective healing is because the healings tend to be fairly instantaneous, and they tend to be life-lasting. And one of the many things they've discovered is that it raises, it elevates the level of light that emits from our DNA, makes it more focused, more coherent, and they feel that by raising this level of light, this is part of how we can understand the healings to be so immediate.
What gave you that certain that something is happening?
I was awakened in the middle of the night by a bright light. I opened my eyes to see what it was. It wasn't anything seemingly spiritual or metaphysical. It was just the lamp next to my bed. For some reason, it turned itself on. But I felt very strongly as if there was somebody in my house, so much so that I got up with a knife and a can of pepper spray and my Doberman pinscher, hunted through the house, finally told myself it had to be my imagination, and I went back to sleep. But that Monday when I went into my office, 7 of my patients, independently of one another, started telling me that they were sensing or feeling people in the rooms in my office, just the way I'd been feeling them in my home. Some said it felt like they were standing or walking or running. 2 of my patients even looked me straight in the eye and said it felt as if someone was flying around the ceiling. Now, you would think after 12 years of practice, no one said that to me before, that 7 patients in one day would get my attention. But at the same time, patients were telling me that they could feel my hands before I touched them. Of course, I didn't believe them, so I had them lie down on a table and close their eyes. I held my hands near them. I would see tiny little muscles in their forehead or their chin begin to ripple the way water ripples when you drop a stone into it. It would pull at their lips, pull at their eyes, their fingers would move, their arms would jerk. When they opened their eyes, they'd tell me they were seeing colors they'd never seen before, smelling flowers they'd never smelled before, and that's when they began reporting healings. I mean, real healings. They were getting up out of wheelchairs, some of them. Vision and hearing returning. Patients were coming in showing laboratory results where their cancer tumors had vanished. Children with cerebral palsy or epilepsy were suddenly able to walk and run and play and speak normally, not have seizures, not need medications. Of course, just as with medicine, not 100% of the people had these results.
About your mother died and got back after she gave birth. Do you think that was important to what happened to you?
What I've come to understand, to recognize, is that everything that happens to us in life is important. There is a reason for everything, and everything makes perfect sense, but we're not necessarily here to understand it fully. Look, not many people have the gift of having a life-after-death experience, of experiencing that beautiful place of love, of understanding, and then coming back here. Not many of us get the opportunity to talk with someone to share it, but you know, I was attached still at the umbilical cord. It was during my delivery while my mother went through this process. So if this played a role in it, well, I was certainly attached to her at the time. I certainly went along for the trip. You know, I would have wished I had taken pictures, but...
How does this work exactly? We've seen you making movements around people with your hands. Are your hands magical? Do you feel energy? Do you give energy?
Want to feel it in your hands?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Come, just give me one hand.
One.
Yeah, just hold one hand up. Open your fingers and your thumb for a little bit. Hold them
Okay.
a little strong if you can. Good. Now, as I bring my hand in, I don't know if the camera can see this, but you can probably see how there's a vibration in your fingers.
Yes.
Okay. My whole arm begins to float. If I push my arm down, it floats back up again. And I sort of watch what I see in your fingers, and then I pull or I stretch the sensation to see if or how it changes. Now, you see that your fingers are moving, but does that mean that you feel anything?
Yes, I felt you pushing.
It felt like I was pushing. What other aspects or characteristics of sensation do you have?
It's like tiny little...
Pins or needles?
Yes, pins and needles.
Now, does it stay the same or does it change now?
It's like waves.
It's like waves. What I'm doing is that I'm listening with a different sense. I'm not sending, I'm feeling, and we're accessing a spectrum beyond energy. For instance, notice how it becomes more intense with distance. The further I pull away, the stronger it becomes.
Yes.
This is just the opposite of what we know about energy. Energy gets weaker with distance. Was there any temperature when I did that with your hands?
A little bit warmer.
A little bit warmer, right? So obviously my hands weren't holding in your body heat at this distance. So where was the warmth coming from? Maybe my hands would be casting off warmth? Feel. They're cold.
No, they're cold.
We don't know. This changes the laws of physics. We don't know how it functions. And what's being discovered, and yet it's difficult to understand, not just in the medical world, but even in the healing world, because we've been used to limited energy healing techniques. But A, what's difficult for people to recognize at first is that healing is just that simple. And B, anything more complicated than that is designed to sell us something. The truth is, we can't buy what we already own. But we can't own it unless we allow ourselves to recognize it. So all of this is truly designed to allow us to come back and look back inside, to come back home. And back home is where our healing is.
You say fear is the worst obstacle in people's lives. You never feel fear?
Absolutely. Feel fear lots of times. Every choice we make, every decision, every action that we take either comes from fear, lack, limitation, the illusion of darkness, the illusion of separation, or it comes from love, prosperity, abundance, light, oneness, unity. And we're here to challenge ourselves by walking through our fears. But we do have to step through the fears, and we experience fear there. The person who is brave is not the person who's not afraid to do anything. It's the person who does what he or she is afraid to do, and we grow through stepping through our fears. So fear is not a bad thing. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear is a challenge that allows us to grow.
Do you go to the doctor?
Yes.
When was the last time you needed an hospital?
A hospital?
Yes.
Oh, God, I don't know. Maybe when I had my tonsils removed when I was 5. But listen, every healthcare discipline has its role. It's very, very important. Many medical doctors have learned this work. And if I walk out in the street and I'm hit by a car, get out of the way, an ambulance is coming to stop the bleeding. If I have a high fever or an infection that reconnective healing will not work with, I'm very thankful for antibiotics. But the reverse is, if I'm in the hospital and antibiotics aren't helping me, then I'm very thankful for reconnective healing. Every healthcare discipline has its role. The only problem is when one healthcare discipline feels it's the expert over the others. It's not. And I wouldn't want my dentist doing my chiropractic. I don't want my chiropractic doing my brain surgery. I don't want my brain surgeon doing my reconnective healing. But I don't want to remove any of those things. I believe that we've gone into each of our healthcare disciplines as an excuse. An excuse to find a socially acceptable way to be the healers that we all are inside.
Are you happy? You feel complete?
I don't feel complete. I have a long way to go. I have a lot to do. If I do what I believe that I'm here for, if I do it well, then when I leave this body, this work will continue. So I'm pedaling as fast as I can. Am I happy? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.